You're listening to Fulfilling Career, Happy Life, the podcast for accomplished professionals who want to identify what's next in their career and make it happen without compromising what matters most. I'm your host, Randi Roberts, an executive and career life coach, and I'm glad you're here. If you want to feel more energized about your work again, this show is for you. So let's get into it. Hi. So for this episode, I'm so excited about this episode. This is one where I brought on a guest expert. And really what I was thinking about was the career satisfaction pillar of making a difference and how important that is to so many of us in knowing that, really being satisfied and fulfilled in our careers. So my guest today is Marion Brooks. And Marion has a really impressive background in sales, in marketing. Now he's a vice president of diversity, equity, and inclusion for one of the biggest pharmaceutical companies in the world. But the real reason that I wanted to have Marion on is I wanted to bring someone on to talk to us about creating a purpose-driven career. Those are my words. Marion may describe it in a different way. There's no one better to talk to about than Marion because he's one of the most purpose-driven people that I know. While he's been successful in the business world, he has woven in a true commitment to making the lives of others better. He's done it with his family. He's done it with his community. And so after our discussion, you're going to know exactly why Marion was the person that we needed to have here. So I've said enough. I'm going to turn it over to Marion to just flesh out your story a little bit in whatever way feels right to you.
Thank you, Randi. And I'm so excited to be with you here today to talk about this very important topic. So I'll start from the beginning. So I'm from Fort Worth, Texas, raised primarily by my grandparents. My parents weren't in a position to raise my brother, my sister, and myself. And so my grandparents stepped in. And I think that's where the purpose component really started for me, watching them. They were on a fixed income by the time they had raised their children, some of my cousins, and then we came along. And we struggled financially. But they never made us feel like we were a burden. We were always a part of everything that was happening, and they put us first. And so that investing in people that I saw from my grandparents is, I think, a big part of why I am the man that I am today. So started in Fort Worth, Texas, and then I actually got into the pharmaceuticals industry years ago when we were called detail people. So I'm dating myself a bit.
That does feel like a long time ago.
Yeah,
luckily,
it was a long time ago. And did very well in Texas and then had a great opportunity to move into the training department. So I had gone through our management development program at one of the companies that I was with. And they asked me once I did a rotation in training, would I be interested in moving to New Jersey? Now, at this juncture, I was a sales consultant, and my objective was to become a sales manager, ultimately a regional director, and then I could die. My career was going to be complete at that point. And so that was my mindset. So when they offered me the job in sales training, it required me to move from Texas to New Jersey, which was a very scary thing for me. But I made the decision based, again, on purpose. So I felt if I went to New Jersey, number one, I would learn more about how to be an effective manager before I became a manager, and I would be able to coach my people more effectively. And then number two, I would be in a position to connect with the different components and different parts of the organization that would impact my people, and I would be a better resource to my people. So I moved to New Jersey. Started my time in training, did a fantastic job there, loved sales training. And then I went out as a sales manager in New York and New Jersey for 5 years. And that led me to marketing, where I met you, and you were my vice president. They gave me my first job in marketing. My undergraduate degree is in marketing as well.
I love knowing that because, you're a person I'd love to take credit for, not that that's appropriate, but you know what I mean? It's, yes. Yeah. And what a good thing for both of us.
Absolutely. And it was a great opportunity because at that time, there was a mindset that if you were from salespeople just executed, marketing people were the strategic arm, and you gave me an opportunity. So you are a part of, and you can take credit for the trajectory that I was able to go forward with. And then, so I was able to get into to marketing after training and sales. And I became the first African-American man to be a head of marketing at Novartis. Based on, again, your support. And so that led me to a point in my career. Like at this point, like now I've been with this pharmaceutical company for 22 years. This was like 6 years ago. I ran into this situation where I was waking up every day. I was making more money than I had ever thought that I would be able to make. I was having an impact helping patients get access to medications, educating, and doing all of these great things. But I was waking up and doing what I call a salmon flop. I would get up in the morning, roll out of the bed like a dead salmon, get up, go to the bathroom, get ready for the day, and go to work. And I was like, there's just something more for me to do. There has to be something more for me to do. And so I started to explore, what is my purpose? What am I really here to do beyond what I'm doing right now? And so that led me to a program that Oprah was doing. She was traveling the country with a number of top people that are in the health and wellness sector. And it was called the Life You Want Tour. And they were helping you determine what your purpose is and what life you would really want to have. And Randi, let me tell you, it was the first time that I'd ever given myself permission to think about what I wanted to do versus what I thought I could do or what I had to do. And so that was a pivot point moment for me. And at the end of the session, Oprah said, now go do one thing. They had us to write out what our life would look like in full color. And I added, if money didn't matter and failure wasn't an option, who would I be and what would I be doing? And so I wrote out I'd be an executive coach and life coach. I would be a best-selling author. I would live near the beach, all of this stuff, right? Had no idea how I would do any of it. And then at the end of the 2.5 days, Oprah said, now go do one thing that leads you towards that vision of your life. And I went home and Googled how to become an executive coach. And that led me to the book and all of the other things that have transpired in my career.
That's fantastic. It's funny, Marion, because as many times, as well as we know each other, and as many times as we've talked, you're like an onion because you just peeled back another layer. I never heard the Oprah story, and I love it. I love it. Those questions that you asked yourself, if money doesn't matter and if failure wasn't an option, it strikes me that those are questions that make it okay to dream about living on purpose, being purpose driven.
Absolutely. And that's why I said it was the first time I'd ever given myself permission to do that. So I wrote down this stuff and I was like, but this isn't realistic for me. And then she said, go do one thing. And I did one thing. And then it started to snowball. So I've been working as becoming an executive coach, getting on purpose, understanding what my purpose is to invest in people, to help them maximize their impact and their potential, going all the way back to what my grandparents had done so well for our entire family and actually the community of Fort Worth, Texas. And so I was able to do that. And then I met a client that I was coaching from a large media company in New York. And she was going through some struggles with a new manager. She had been there for 15 years. And I coached her for 6 months. She received 2 promotions and the bad boss, quote unquote, was fired. I now had nothing to do with the boss being fired, but I helped her to navigate her career. And she said at the end of our 6 months together, she said, if you really want to help people the way that you helped me, you need to write a book because I didn't know what I didn't know and it was hurting me. And that became the title of my book.
Yeah, it's a great book. All of our listeners should read it. And it's, again, one of the things that inspired me about having this conversation with you. Okay, so I'm not going to get the words right, but you said your purpose is something about investing in people. How do you describe it? What do you describe as your purpose?
To invest in people to help them maximize their impact and their potential. Okay. And what I've realized is as I look along the thread of my life is where I got the most joy, is when I played a part, even a small part, in helping someone get from point A to point B. And it just was so motivating and inspirational and for me. And so as I was going through all of this work to try to figure out what my purpose was, and then I thought back to my grandparents and what they did. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's my purpose. And so I have leaned into it 100%.
That's amazing. That's amazing. I don't think most people are that clear on it. It's great. And what a tribute to your grandparents.
Yes, I'm the man that I am because of who they were. And I tell people sometimes, because, when you're not raised by your parents, there's usually some resentment. I've always thought that was the kindest, most loving thing that my parents could have ever done, is to leave us with my grandparents. If my parents had been, and I think about it this way, if my parents had been the people that I had wanted them to be when I was a kid, I probably wouldn't be the man that I am today, because I wouldn't have been raised by my grandparents. So I think of it that way.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I mean, and it reminds me, like, the way that I talk to a lot of my clients and the way I try and live my own life is, we are going to go through difficult things. It's life. And you can either find the meaning in it or you can struggle against it. And so you're finding the meaning in it. Absolutely. Yeah. That's great. So one of the things that strikes me, and I wanted to ask you about, Marion, is being, clear on your purpose and trying to live your life on purpose. It's a series of ups and downs. And I imagine that there are times you feel like you're doing it, quote unquote, better than others, like you're closer to it than others. And so it requires a lot of resilience to carry that thread through and continue that focus during the times that are tough. What do you do to practice resilience?
So there are a few things that I do. One of them is I surround myself with the right people. So the right support, the right guidance, and just the right energy. And so there's research that shows that the 5 people you spend the most time with, your average annual income will be the average of theirs. Now, this is not about money. This is about mindset. And you want to be surrounded by people who have a growth mindset. I have a best friend from elementary school, that we are still friends today. We both grew up struggling financially, but we're both doing exceptionally well now. He's one of the few people that I've stayed connected to because we both had a success mindset. And so you have to surround yourself with those types of people. So I always tell people to evaluate your top 5. They are a reflection of who you are or who you want to be. And if someone is in that top 5 that does not represent one of those things, you have to ask yourself why they're there. Because we have a limited number of spaces on our spiritual bus, is the way I like to look at it. And if you are filling seats with seat fillers, when a bus is full, Randi, it passes by the bus stop. And the person and the people that you need for the next leg of your journey can't join you if you're holding on to people, or people are holding seats that are meant for other people. So you really have to evaluate that. So I surround myself with the right people, number one.
I just love that analogy of there's limited number of seats on your spiritual bus. And it kind of like, it takes away some of the guilt of, wait a minute, you need to get off the bus now. Yes. I need to release you.
Yes.
Yeah. Wow. Really interesting. Thank you. I cut you off. What's the next one?
No, that's okay. So that's number one. One. And then I also practice a lot of spiritual healing, because as you said, there are ups and downs. As we go through this life, there are going to be ebbs and flows. When you're at your highest, enjoy it, but know that a low is coming. But when you're there, know that another high is coming. It has to be your mindset. So I meditate every morning and do a breath work exercise just to make sure that I start the day with the right energy and the right mindset. I do affirmations. I have key affirmations that I repeat every morning before I start my day about who I am, what I represent, and how I want to show up in the world. And then at 8:15 every evening, my alarm goes off, no matter where I am. If I'm speaking, then I put it on silent, and I do it after I get off stage or out of a meeting. But at 8:15 p.m., I have my gratitude alarm. And all my friends and family, everyone knows at 8:15, his gratitude alarm is going to go off. And I just jot down a few things that I'm grateful for that day. And what I have found is no matter how hectic or frustrating or challenging the day may have been, when you pause to give gratitude for the things that we consider little things, the things that helped you make it through that day or helped you to help someone else, it kind of shifts your energy. So I do that every day at 8:15.
You know, it's that hits me really like powerfully, because when it comes to gratitude, to share a personal story, we're just hopefully coming out of the pandemic finally, right? And when we went into it, it was a time I don't think any of us could have imagined how life was going to change, at least for a moment. And I went through a period of real guilt because here I was privileged to be able to stay in my little bubble. I rarely left the house. My husband did the grocery shopping once a week. I see my clients on Zoom. Their situation didn't change. So it's not like they dropped out of coaching or something. My life changed much less than many other people. I was separated from people that I love, of course, but I was really feeling very guilty about it. And working with my own coach, what I realized was, wait a minute, that just holds me back. If I flip it and look at what I have to be grateful for, it like freed up energy to allow me to help other people. So you're talking about your daily gratitude practice really is meaningful for me. I appreciate you sharing that.
Oh, thank you, Randi. Yeah, it makes a difference for me too, especially on those tough days. But on the great days, it's even better. Yeah. When I just jot down all of these amazing things. And then part of my gratitude are certain people that have impacted me that day. So today you'll be on the list. You've been on the list many times, but today you'll definitely be on the list.
Oh, I love knowing that. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. So a couple of really helpful tips, I'll call them, you just shared in terms of thinking about surrounding yourself with the right people that share your growth mindset, that have that sense of gratitude, whatever, that are sort of spiritually aligned, I'll call it, or values aligned, that kind of thing. Surrounding yourself with those people is fantastic. And then focusing on your own spiritual practices, mindfulness practices, whatever people want to call that. For you, that's the affirmations, some breath work, and your gratitude practice. And it strikes me that those are things like these practices, they're not time consuming. It's just a matter of being purposeful.
Yes. And carving out 20 minutes, everything that I described as far as it takes about 20 minutes a day throughout the day for me to do all of those practices that help to keep me on track. And then I try to work out at least 3 times a week.
Yeah.
As well.
Yeah. Yep. That's great. That's great. So I have one more question for you, which is, what's the biggest career risk you ever took in order to be better aligned with it could be purpose, it could be values, it could be your stand, however you want to say that?
That's an easy one. It was writing the book. It was the biggest risk I have ever taken. And it was one of the scariest moments I've ever had because I was leaning into, I was like, okay, this is my purpose. And if I don't write this book, I'm not living my purpose. But also I had a career and I was like, but if I write a book, how are they going to feel about the book? Are they going to want to get rid of me and all of these things? And what will I do career-wise? But I leaned into the purpose component. I said, I'm going to write the book. I'm going to be very transparent about me writing the book and all those things. And I'll prepare myself to be able to move to the next. I was surprised. So a lot of the things that I feared never came to fruition. So once I wrote the book did exceptionally well and all those things. The organization actually said, oh my gosh, Marion, this is fantastic. We are looking to infuse DE&I into the DNA of the organization, and we think you are the perfect person to do it. So I've been involved with DE&I work since 2010, leading employee resource groups, serving on executive DE&I councils, providing insights, and I've been very involved, but I have a strong commercial background as well. sales and marketing and training. And they said, we feel like you're the perfect person to infuse all of that to help us move DE&I forward. So what I thought was going to be the exit was actually an elevation to a country level role where I got to influence and impact the lives of people and help people to develop and grow across the entire U.S., 15,000 associates. So by leaning into my purpose, getting past the fear, and Randy, let me tell you, there was a lot of fear. I woke up a number of days like, what did you do? What are you doing? But it worked out because I stayed true to my purpose, and I was also very planful.
You know, I have chills you telling that story because there's so many important aspects of it. There's you getting over the fear, you choosing to lean into it even and do the thing you knew you needed to do anyway. And then the fact that it paid off for you big time, it's almost like an instant karma feedback loop, right? And like, I'm thinking about what possibly could have been bad about it if you're so true to your purpose. You know, the details might have worked out differently, but it still would have been the right decision.
Absolutely. And that's what I said when I leaned into it. I said, and even if the book only helps 3 people, and my co-authors kept saying, stop saying that. It's going to help so many people because it's helping me and I'm writing it with you. But I was like, even if it only helps 3 people, I'm living in purpose. And so I leaned into that. So I didn't write the book to make money. I wrote the book to make a difference. And I think being aligned with that component and the purpose and not worrying about money, but really focusing on purpose helped me to be able to be successful. And for, like you said, the karma and universe said, okay, we see what you're doing and we will support you in this endeavor.
That's amazing. And then, you know, not only is it that feedback loop for you that you're doing the right thing, but how many other people, like the ripples of that, of how many people you're able to help as a result is just, it's just so exciting. It's like, keep going. What's next? Right. Okay. So tell our listeners how they can find your book, how they can touch base with you, how they can get more of Marion if they're feeling they need it.
So thank you for that, Randy. So you can find me at Marion E. Brooks on Instagram, Facebook. That's also my website, marionebrooks.com. And on LinkedIn, it's Marion Brooks, MBA. But I would love to connect with your listeners. And Randy, just thank you for this opportunity to share. I love these conversations and I love sharing because it's not easy to do what we do, but it looks so easy sometimes from the outside and people don't know that we are facing the same challenges that they are facing, the same fears, the same obstacles. But I always try to turn my obstacles into opportunities by really focusing on what did I learn and how can I use it for myself or for someone else.
Yeah. You're so inspiring in that way. I will make sure that all of the links you just mentioned, as well as the name of your book, are in our show notes so that people can find you. And it's just been delightful. I knew it would be. And it's been, I feel, you know, it's funny. It's been a really long week. And I went into this conversation just feeling tired from the week. And now I feel like excited and energized. And I have to thank you for that. I think our listeners will feel the same way.
Well, thank you, Randy. I really appreciate it.
Thanks so much for listening to Fulfilling Career, Happy Life. If you enjoy the show, please subscribe, follow, rate, and review. Do all the things to show your support for this podcast. It helps other professionals who want to feel more energized about their work again find us. And if you want to take this thinking further, please follow me on LinkedIn, where I share content on a regular basis. You can also get on my email list by downloading the Career Satisfaction Assessment or through my website. All these links are in the show notes. Thanks again for tuning in. I truly appreciate that you make the time for yourself to listen to the show. See you next week.